Representative Harriet Hageman joins us. Representative, how are you doing this morning?
I am wonderful. It's a beautiful day back here in D.C., but it also sounds like it's a beautiful day in Wyoming.
It is. It is. We had some rain. We had some thunderstorms a couple days ago. It's now cleared out, sunny. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Let's jump into something that I just don't understand. Why can't we process our own mail here in Wyoming? Why is it going to Denver, Billings, other places? Give us an update on what's going on with the Postal Service for Wyoming.
So what's pretty exciting is that the Postal Service, the U.S. Postmaster was attempting to shut down all of our processing systems in Wyoming and force us to send our mail would go to Denver, Salt Lake City, and Billings. But yesterday he made an announcement that they are going to stop. They're going to roll back that idea at least until January of 2025. And I believe that it was because of all of the pressure that we put on them to stop them from doing this. Wyoming is absolutely entitled to have a processing center there, or at least one, if not more. And so this is a huge win for Wyoming. We are not going to be losing our processing centers yet, and I'm hoping that we can stop that. I do have a bill in that would prevent them from being able to shut down any processing center that would be the only one in the state. So I'm excited about the changes that are going to be happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you're probably aware too, but UPS announced that they are no longer delivering, quickly, overnight, whatever, in eastern Wyoming. Anything you can do to help that situation? People need medication. They need stuff overnighted. Can you do anything about that?
Well, yes, I agree with you that people do need that. That's a private company.
Right,
That's
right.
different than the U.S. Postal Service. And so I look at what has happened with the USPS. I see that as a huge win because the people of Wyoming were extremely vocal that we needed to have that for the very reasons you're talking about. It will affect our elections. It will affect our ability for people to get their medications. So it is extremely important that we do have a processing center in Wyoming. And for right now, we are going to be able to maintain that.
Representative Harriet Hageman, she joins us every once in a while to discuss what's going on in D.C., what she's working on. Another thing, the federal government select committee, the weaponization of that federal government select committee, it's called lawfare. Kind of give us a general overall what's going on, what's the situation, and what are you doing to deal with it?
Well, it's interesting. So I am on the select committee on the weaponization of the federal government. And yesterday we had a hearing, and at the top of the hour in your news program on Fox News, they actually reported on what happened yesterday. We brought in 4 witnesses yesterday to describe the nature of the lawfare that is being waged against primarily President Trump at this time, but we've seen it in a variety of different ways. The testimony yesterday was describing how the Democrats have been using the legal system to basically target their political enemies. We're seeing it in the case that's playing out in New York right now. We know what's happening with the case dealing with the documents, how the Biden White House and the DOJ were actively involved in pursuing the case against President Trump while at the same time giving Joe Biden a bye. And so what they described yesterday, and I would encourage your listeners to go to the website, but what they described yesterday is how our legal system is being weaponized for political purposes. As a practicing attorney, as someone who was a trial attorney for 34 years, it is absolutely horrific what has been happening. We need to change that. This is third world country dictator despot type stuff. This is not the way that our legal system should be manipulated, and the hearing yesterday really laid that out on the table.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was the website? What website do you want us to go to?
It would be the website for the Select Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so very easy to find, but the entire proceeding, the hearing probably lasted a little over 2 hours. And you don't have to watch all of it, but it does give some incredible insight. We brought in 3 expert witnesses, and the Democrats had a witness too that basically said that lawfare only applies if you're a Republican, but she had some interesting takes on things. I think the American people are seeing what's going on, and that's why with every time that they try to go after President Trump, the reaction is horror. People are just absolutely horrified at how our legal system is being manipulated. The case in New York is a classic example.
How do you differentiate, or how do you legislate or fix the problem if there is something going on and a Democrat, let's say a lawsuit against a Democrat like Joe Biden or something like that, and they scream, oh my God, this is lawfare kind of thing. Like, how do you actually fix the problem for both sides, not just one side, but for both sides, but still maintain our overall legal process?
We have to get back to the constitutional foundation of this country. And we have to be putting people in positions of power that are not actually running on the idea that they're going to prosecute or persecute a particular person because of their political beliefs. If you'll remember, Letitia James and Alvin Bragg in New York, both of them ran on the idea that they were going to prosecute Donald Trump. They didn't say what his crime was. They weren't talking about a particular crime. They actually ran on the idea that they were going to prosecute the former president of the United States. So what we really have to do, we don't need any more laws. We've got the laws on the books right now. We have our constitutional rights. President Trump has his constitutional rights. One of the things that has horrified me as I've watched this trial play out in New York is that the judge is intentionally committing reversible error. The decisions that he has made, for example, placing a gag order on President Trump but nobody else involved in the case. One of the gentlemen who had worked for the Department of Justice for almost 35 years testified yesterday that he has never heard of a gag order being imposed against a criminal defendant. Now think about that. The gag orders are not to prevent defendants from being able to speak. They are to prevent the prosecution from being able to try their case in the court of public opinion in that way. And to be able to leak information, selectively leak information to the press. That's what gag orders are, to protect the civil rights and the constitutional rights of liberty of the accused, not the prosecution. Yet the only gag order that has been imposed in this case has been placed on the defendant. Absolutely unheard of. So again, when you look at what this judge is doing, every day he is issuing orders that he knows are irreversible error, but he's doing it anyway so that he can hopefully get a conviction before November.
Representative Harriet Hageman joins us, as she does every so often, giving us insight into what's going on in D.C. and what she's working on. As a lawyer, as a practicing attorney, has there been any... I just haven't seen anything that I think will convict Trump yet. Have you seen anything in the trial? And what do you think ultimately the jury will rule? How will they rule?
If the judge was actually carrying out his oath and applying the law as it should be applied, a directed verdict would be entered in this case as soon as the prosecution rests. The prosecution must prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. They must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump committed a felony. They haven't yet identified what the felony is. They haven't yet told the jury what the felony is, let alone met their burden of demonstrating that Donald Trump violated the law. So that case ought to be resolved on a directed verdict. Do I think this judge will do that? No, I don't. Do I think that do I think that the jury will either acquit or be a hung jury? Yeah, I do. Because so far nothing has been proven in terms of Donald Trump violating the law. That's the most bizarre thing about this. This is an effort. This is lawfare. This is a classic example of what we describe when we're talking about lawfare. As far as the other cases, the document case, the Department of Justice, the special counsel, is now going to get drugged before the court for mishandling documents. What is the claim against Donald Trump? That he mishandled documents. I mean, the irony of all ironies is that case is most likely going to be thrown out because the special counsel has done what he accused President Trump of doing. I mean, this whole thing is just absolutely bizarre.
It is. And I agree with you. I've said from the beginning, I think it's going to be a hung jury because I'm not really sure. I'm not the brightest bulb, in the pack, and I didn't go to law school, but I still don't understand what this case is really about. If I have a relationship and I want somebody to go to way and I pay them what's called hush money, that's not illegal. That's not illegal at all. But they say it's like fraudulent bookkeeping at a time when the election was happening. Again, I think you're absolutely right. They have not proven what it is. There's no there. You know what I mean?
There. Yes.
So last question, because I know you're really busy and we appreciate you taking the time out. The Rock Springs RMP. This just seems like the federal government just telling us what we can and cannot do with our land. What is the latest on that, and can there be any resolution?
So yesterday we had a hearing before the Federal Lands Subcommittee of the Natural Resources Committee, and Tracy Stone Manning, who is the director of the BLM, was there. I questioned her about the Rock Springs RMP. She says that she's read part of it. She hasn't read all of it, but she sure read part of it. And when I questioned Deb Haaland 2 weeks ago, the head of the Department of Interior, whether she was even familiar with the Rock Springs RMP, she said no. She didn't even know what I was talking about. So that gives you an idea of what's going on back here. This is an effort to deny access, management, and use to 1.8 million acres of land in southwestern Wyoming. What are they trying to stop? They're trying to stop recreation. They're trying to stop grazing. They're trying to stop oil and gas development and any kind of mineral development. This is part of the 30 by 30. This is part of the Green New Deal. This is part of their war on the West, their war on affordable energy. But I do think that they are going to have to come out with a different alternative than the one that they chose last year, Alternative B. We now know that they only spent 1 year out of 6 years of work. 6 years of work. They spent 1 week on analyzing the impact of Alternative B, and yet that's the alternative that they chose because it is the most restrictive. So they're either going to go, they are going back to the drawing board. They are going to come out with a different alternative. I am sure of that. Whether it will be better, I cannot predict, but I will predict that if they go forward with trying to implement Alternative B, they will be sued and they will lose. They being the BLM. They are violating FLPMA as in terms of this Rock Springs RMP, the Federal Land Policy Management Act, and I am hoping that the state of Wyoming is prepared to sue, because if they do sue, they will win.
So it basically comes to, well, let me ask you, does it come down to they want to stop us, and when I say us, I mean the state, from allowing people to prospect for minerals, is it all about the fossil fuel thing, or is it something else? Because I can't understand why the government would want to stop us recreating. What's wrong with recreating? What's wrong with doing it?
It's all of it. This is the nature of the radical people that are in the Biden administration. I'm telling you that these people are radical environmentalists, that their entire goal is to stop all access and use of these federal lands. So it is, it's about fossil fuels. It's about the radical global warming climate change agenda. That's part of it. But part of it also is they don't want people to have any access whatsoever. This is about grazing. It's about mining. It's about oil and gas. And it's about recreation. It stops all of it.
Wow. Representative Harriet Hageman from the great state of Wyoming joins us as she does every once in a while. Ms. Hageman, thank you so much. We appreciate the time. Good luck to you, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you.